Yeah, thank you very much, Lisa, for having me. It is a great shock to the continent, where we prescribe to democracy that we shall have a rotational leadership, to give opportunity for other to lead or to have better ideas. Yes, of course, and many people say that Yoweri Museveni has won the elections, which was very much anticipated that he win the elections because of his autocratic regime and the lead over Uganda. And the history of Uganda has already told us that the way they lead the people there, it's by power, using the power. Idi Amin was one of the people whom we cannot forget how he led the Ugandan people by his palm. But, going forward, we need democratic dispensation in Africa, especially in Uganda, that we change our mindset.
Now, on that note, Dr. Charles Sinkala, I mean, we're looking at security and perhaps how it is linked to legitimacy and also electoral integrity at large. Looking at the AU's response, looking at the international community's response to what has transpired in Uganda to date, how is this also going to perhaps impact his leadership going into his next tenure and perhaps his relations in the global sphere?
I think in terms of peace and security in Southern Africa, as well as the rest of the continent, has been merely under threat because of, I think he has lost his popularity. President-elect Yoweri Museveni has actually, been losing not only the local popularity, but as well as the regional blocs. I remember very well during the time of President Ian Khama in Botswana also mentioned that he was never going to attend a meeting where former President Robert Mugabe or either Yoweri Museveni will attend because he would like to have the peaceful terms of democracy on the continent. And yes, the security in Mozambique as well as Uganda is a threat. And I think the world leaders has to come out, especially the regional blocs and the AU, where we have President Cyril Ramaphosa as chair of the AU. Some of the things has to condemn, especially leading to these elections in Uganda on the 14th. Internet still is being locked down in the country, and the oppression by the ruling party has been on the block. 54 people has died already. From last week, and this shouldn't be happening. And I think though in his speech, acceptance speech of the victory, President Yoweri Museveni elect, he mentioned that he does not need any interference in his governance, that if the seat is in one position, him alone can move it. No one can come outside and come in your house and say, this seat is in the wrong position, I must move it. But I think this gives a very bad impression as we see Ugandans all over the African continent, even including South Africa. They are fleeing from that country. I mean, he's a leader. If you are 30 and under in Uganda, which makes up about 75% of the population, they haven't known any other leader apart from him.
I'm just looking at the fears of, further escalation in violence post the announcement that President Yoweri Museveni is going to take another term again. I mean, what is the international community, perhaps some of the observers that have been sent, observing at this point? What can we expect within the days to come? I mean, we've heard from the opposition that they are contesting this and are ultimately made up of the youth, as you alluded to earlier on, who want a regime change.
Yes, and I think the only way they can help the people of Uganda and the continent is by trying to check the legitimacy of the elections, where it has been claimed to have been rigged in some places. And I think we can have a repeat of what happened in Kenya, for a rerun, and make sure that the international community now have a chance to preside or monitor the elections. If that fails, then, we're likely to have so much violence in Uganda. And I think a lot of people are planning to do something so that they can force President-elect Yoweri Museveni to resign. But we can only hope, for the best that the people of Uganda can find themselves in a way that they can pass this. And I think believing the narrative of that political power shall ignite the economical power, it is a myth that we shouldn't be thinking. I think economical power is the industrialization of the country, Uganda, to make sure that there's opportunities, to make sure that the mineral resources and the human resources are utilized perfectly, and the growing population is managed so that each and everybody is got a stake in the economy. We should not think in the continent or in the world that political power or elections shall change things in the country. The people of Uganda now must find terms to either work with Museveni or they can't work with him. And I think for the sake of peace and security, they must actually work with him, because last time I checked, youths, yes, they're saying they're marginalized, they're not being put in the economical positions, but many of them do not vote. Many of them have seen evidence that they do not cast their ballots. And whether or not the elections were rigged, you can see that many youths, they stayed away. Only 50% of the registered voters, voted at that particular point. And it's only the 15% of those who are older generations, who are still accustomed to the autocratic regime and system of President Yoweri Museveni elect.
Dr. Charles Sinkala, I want to wrap up this conversation by then perhaps also bringing in the issue of socioeconomic issues. I mean, we're looking at the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement that has been passed. We're looking at the dynamics that are unfolding within the different countries in Africa and, the issue of cross-border trading based on those dynamics. I mean, what is transpiring in Uganda to date is going to impact how that agreement is going to, be rolled out and impact, local informal traders as well as the continent at large. What are the biggest concerns on that block?
The idea of the Inter-Africa Free Trade Area Agreement, which has been signed now, will have no impact, provided that the doctrines and the conditions are met. Yeah. But as well, if it is not monitored or supervised, it is prone that those countries which are doing a little bit better, have so much pressure from the other countries which are not doing better at all or not doing anything. Like what is happening in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe economically is paralyzed, and you find that South Africa at least is doing at least 50–51%. So have that mass of people migrating or moving so much in South Africa that South Africa is not prepared to handle that pressure, including other countries like Egypt, Cameroon, as well as Zambia, So a balance of implementation has to be cautiously maintained. Uganda as well, because of the economical situation, like I likely mentioned earlier, we likely to see that now people will see an opportunity to flee the countries into neighboring countries like Mozambique and the surrounding areas. Most these traders, they depend on, or other countries, they depend on the funds they collect from excise duty and customs. And I think we need a very good political will and economical power that Africa should now regenerate itself and energize to produce and, to make sure that the opportunities they are taken advantage of.
All right, Dr. Charles Sinkala, thank you very much for joining us on Weekend Dawn.